Part 2, Chapter 1, Part 2 of Chapter 1. Marie clucked to her horse. "Oh, you know, Annie?" She looked at the young man's bare arms. "How brown you've got since you came home. I wish I had an athlete to mow my orchard. I get wet to my knees when I go down to pick cherries." "You can have one any time you want him. Better wait until after it rains." Emile squinted off at the horizon as if he were looking for clouds. "Will you? Oh, there's a good boy." She turned her head to him with a quick, bright smile. He felt it rather than saw it. Indeed, he had looked away with the purpose of not seeing it. "I've been up looking at Angelique's wedding clothes," Marie went on, "and I'm so excited I can hardly wait until Sunday. Amédée will be a handsome bridegroom. Is anybody but you going to stand up with him? Well, then it will be a handsome wedding party." She made a droll face at Emile, who flushed. "Frank," Marie continued, flicking her horse, is cranky at me because I loaned his saddle to Jan Smirka, and I'm terribly afraid he won't take me to the dance in the evening. Maybe the supper will tempt him. All Angelique's folks are baking for it, and all Amédée's 20 cousins. There will be barrels of beer. If once I get Frank to the supper, I'll see that I stay for the dance. And, by the way, Emile, you mustn't dance with me but once or twice. You must dance with all the French girls. It hurts their feelings if you don't. They think you're proud because you've been away to school or something." Emile sniffed. "How do you know they think that?" "Well, you didn't dance with them much at Raoul Marcel's party, and I could tell how they took it by the way they looked at you, and at me." "All right," said Emile shortly, studying the glittering blade of his scythe. They drove westward toward Norway Creek and toward a big white house that stood on a hill several miles across the fields. There were so many sheds and outbuildings grouped about it that the place looked not unlike a tiny village. A stranger approaching it could not help noticing the beauty and fruitfulness of the outlying fields. There was something individual about the great farm, a most unusual trimness and care for detail. On either side of the road, for a mile before you reached the foot of the hill, stood tall osage orange hedges, their glossy green marking off the yellow fields. South of the hill, in a low, sheltered swale surrounded by a mulberry hedge, was the orchard, its fruit trees knee-deep in timothy grass. Anyone thereabouts would have told you that this was one of the richest farms on the divide, and that the farmer was a woman, Alexandra Bergson. If you go up the hill and enter Alexandra's big house, you will find that it is curiously unfinished and uneven in comfort. One room is papered, carpeted, over-furnished. The next is almost bare. The pleasantest rooms in the house are the kitchen, where Alexandra's 3 young Swedish girls chatter and cook and pickle and preserve all summer long, and the sitting room, in which Alexandra has brought together the old homely furniture that the Bergsons used in their first log house, the family portraits, and the few things her mother brought from Sweden. When you go out of the house into the flower garden, there you feel again the order and fine arrangement manifest all over the great farm, in the fencing and hedging, in the windbreaks and sheds, in the symmetrical pasture ponds planted with scrub willows to give shade to the cattle in fly time. There is even a white row of beehives in the orchard under the walnut trees. You feel that, properly, Alexandra's house is the big out of doors, and that it is in the soil that she expresses herself best.